Heartbeat Alaska would like to thank the following sponsors for making our show possible. Brown's Electric. Thank you, Brown's Electric, for your generous support. Heartbeat Alaska is also brought to you by Frontier Flying Service. Thank you, Frontier, for getting Heartbeat Alaska airborne.
Heartbeat Alaska is made possible by Kupik Carlisle Transportation, your full-service transportation and logistics company.
Strength.
Sarah, you'll be okay.
Courage. Determination. Knowledge. And the ability to work together as one. These are all values and traits of America's native people, from days long gone but never forgotten to present-day life. Our people remain true to our culture, true to our heritage, taking from the land and sea what we need to survive, while respecting God's creation and making sure that these resources remain abundant and cared for, so that future generations may continue the traditions of our native ways. Through the centuries, our native people have persevered, overcoming nature's wrath, providing food and shelter for our families, coexisting with others, economic struggle. And now, today, our people face a new dilemma, one that threatens a way of life that we have learned over the years, one that threatens our very existence. But before I share this with you, first, let me tell you about our past. It's a past that we are proud to say we have survived. It's a past that will forever remain our legacy. There was once a time when this great land belonged to us. Our people shared the bounties of the land. We took care of each other and made sure no one went without. We traded goods amongst our tribes, helped each other to hunt and gather food. We also waged war against each other. But overall, we were living examples of a peaceful people. But our life would soon change as explorers crossed the great seas, searching for uncharted territory. In 1804, the Tlingit natives of Alaska would be forced from their lands by Russian settlers, many dying at the hands of these overseas intruders. In the 1800s, Native Americans were pushed onto reservations, and they were forced to make treaties which the U.S. government violated again and again. In 1838, thousands of Native Americans from the Cherokee, Choctaw, Chickasaw Creek, and Seminole tribes were forced to leave their homelands on an 800-plus mile march to Indian Territory known as Trail of Tears. Thousands of Native Americans died on the trail due to disease, exposure, and starvation. Today, only a handful of reservations exist where major tribes once flourished. With the discovery of oil in Alaska came the politics of the Western culture, laying claim to thousands of acres of native lands. It was this point in time that we Alaska Natives would put our foot down and say, enough is enough. This is our land. From all corners of the state, our Native people joined together and formed the Alaska Federation of Natives to protect our land and subsistence rights against the federal government who wanted only one thing: the oil beneath our resource-rich lands.
ANCSA, the Alaska Native Claims Settlement Act, was the vehicle chosen by Congress to acknowledge the Aboriginal land rights of Alaska Natives that had been lost. And with ANCSA, we were entitled to the selection of lands within our traditional areas that were of traditional interest, traditional use, and we were given some compensation for lost rights.
Well, there's a lot of debate and interpretation about the Alaska Native Claims Settlement Act and how it came about and how we were able to adapt and fit into these corporate structures that the Congress enacted upon us.
You have to think about what happened to Alaska Natives. Congress passed a law that forced them into these corporations. They're represented by the corporations. It's what we call a forced aggregation rule. They didn't have a vote in it. They were just put there.
There's good and bad. You know, we had to really work hard to understand the corporate structure and compete in the global marketplace.
As a result of the passing of ANCSA, 13 Native corporations were formed throughout Alaska. Corporations that today have become a huge force behind the economies of most rural communities, providing shareholders with job opportunities, dividends, scholarships, and other opportunities that may have otherwise been unattainable.
Rather than a reservation system that's owned by the government and held in trust by the government, Native corporations actually own land, they own assets, and they're able to utilize those for the benefits of its shareholders. So it creates a much more dynamic environment than often what you see in reservations in terms of a stagnant economy with very little opportunity.
It's important for you to look at the difference between the Alaska Native Claims Settlement Act and the reservation system of the Lower 48.
This is a new model that was created in the early 70s, and it had never been done before. And it is a land claim issue, and it was set up with a corporate model. Well, you have to imagine that the Native people at the time, they were not ready to operate these corporations on a corporate model. We're actually still learning how to do this, and in fact it's taken 25 years to get us where we are starting to have people in the finance departments and CEOs and any number of the other departments that are involved in these corporations.
We became the managers of the lands we received as part of the settlement, and the money that the government gave us. Our purpose was to take those resources and invest, develop natural resources off our lands, and through that process provide benefits, dividends to our shareholders.
The intent of the corporations is to become an economic development model for the Native peoples, because most of the people do live in remote rural areas. In our region, that there are 7 tribes, 4 of which are in remote communities that are only accessible by boat or plane. And these are small villages, Tutitlik, Chanika, and so forth. So the corporation itself is meant to provide jobs, meant to provide dividends, this type of thing, educational opportunities.
The Small Business Administration's 8A program was created in 1974 to help minority and other disadvantaged businesses to grow through a program of federal contracting preferences and set-asides. Through the 8A program, eligible firms can be awarded government contracts on a sole source, non-competitive basis. Alaska Native corporations are eligible to compete for these sole source contracts. Competitive bidding on limited opportunities allows 8A contractors to gain valuable experience in various market arenas and has made Alaska Native corporations major players in the workforce market.
The 8A program overall was intended to provide opportunities for disadvantaged people. And Alaska Natives are, in fact, disadvantaged people. And the benefits of Alaska Native Corporation's involvement in the 8A program are our beneficiaries are our shareholders. And in our case, in Nana's case, the majority of our shareholders are still living a very traditional lifestyle in a region that has very limited access, very minimal infrastructure, and so the avenue that is available for us through the 8A program allows us to go off and strive to be successful in business and bring the benefits of our business activity back to our owners, the shareholders of the Alaska Native Corporation.
The assistance that they provide in continuing the subsistence lifestyle that the people in my village live, the dividends have helped hunters and fishers buy the supplies, the gas, the ammunition, and everything that they need to continue the subsistence harvest.
The SBA 8A provision is the missing link of the Alaska Native Claims Settlement Act. It does allow a Native corporation to participate in an extremely meaningful way in government contracting. And what is so admirable about it is that it allows a corporation like Chugach to create subsidiaries with a specific expertise and to become really good and be recognized throughout the industry and to be in demand. And so it's not simply a government program where the corporation is being subsidized and giving nothing in return. Instead, it's more like a subsidized startup.
Under the SBA's 8A program, small businesses are able to compete for sole source contracts up to $3 million. Native-owned 8A firms and Alaska Native corporations have a unique status in that they are not subject to the $3 million limitations on sole source contracts applicable to other 8A firms, allowing Alaska Native corporations to compete for larger contracts. The argument arises that Alaska Native corporations should not have privileges over other small businesses, and that all small businesses should be able to compete for the same unlimited sole source contracts. But as Dennis Matrokin, CEO of Konyag Incorporated, explains, circumstances are quite different when comparing Alaska Native corporations to small businesses.
What we make off of those contracts supports thousands of shareholders. Cognac, as I mentioned, about 3,500, but we have other regional corporations with over 16,000. And so that's why the program was designed this way. It's the same with the tribal corporations in the lower 48. And so if you look at it from the standpoint of the number of people we support, how many owners we have in the business, I think it's totally fair. That's not to say that maybe those smaller disadvantaged companies aren't due to have their ceilings increased somewhat, but it certainly isn't a reason to change the program as it applies to us.
There are opportunities in the small business world in Alaska on federal contracting is just about non-existent in most of the areas. So therefore, if you apply what we call the aggregation rule in representing 7,000 or 10,000 Alaska Natives, there shouldn't be a cap on it of what they can do in government contracting.
In the past, allegations have been made that some corporations were using 8A contracting to make a handful of shareholders rich, and that corporations were abusing privileges originally meant to benefit small businesses.
There have been a number of concerns raised about ANCs participating in the 8A program and in government contracting generally, whether they're somehow receiving an unfair benefit or an unfair number of contracts. And I think the misinformation that has gone out in the media has really hurt our story because our side of the story has not gotten out. And I think it's important to realize that Native American contracting is a very small piece of the overall 8A contracting pie. But the benefits from those same revenues benefit not individual disadvantaged individuals, but individual shareholders. So the benefits that flow through ANC companies benefit many more.
Since participating in 8A contracting, Alaska Native corporations have seen shareholder unemployment rates decline and a growing number of shareholders pursuing higher educations.
Okay, and this should be in your writing section. Turn to organization.
What 8A has added is added an element of additional revenue for these corporations that allow for more contributions into the nonprofit areas where people do need the help, and mainly in education.
I was able to go back to school full-time and obtain a degree in organizational management. Got my bachelor's degree from APU. I'm beginning my master's degree program at Seton Hall University. I'm going to be getting a Master's of Arts in Strategic Communication and Leadership. It's a mouthful.
I've received scholarships from Chugach for going on 3 years, and EAC Corporation, this will be my second year, hopefully. And I've also been able to participate in the internships offered by Chugach, which has been a really great experience.
You know, on one hand, we're providing money to help our shareholders go to school to develop skills, and that at the same time, we're building corporations that create opportunity for them.
I've learned a lot, and it's definitely helping me. I think it's putting me ahead of the rest of my class.
It has given me the career that I've always dreamed of and a future that looks pretty promising.
Although I really see that, you know, it's a fairly long cycle. This isn't something that can take place in the period of a year or two. We've been providing scholarships for, you know, the past decade or more, and we're just now starting to see, you know, skilled professionals that have been given the opportunity to gain experience and then to be able to contribute in a valuable way to our 80 subsidiaries.
For many shareholders who choose to go to college or a technical school, the benefits of scholarship programs made possible through 8A contracting are priceless, since most rural communities rely heavily on subsistence economy. But what about those shareholders who choose to stay in their village and continue a subsistence lifestyle? How does 8A contracting benefit these individuals?
On one hand, we're talking about people that are going to a university and learning an advanced skill and moving off to where we might have a contract. But we have a large base of our shareholders that like the native lifestyle, who grow up in a village and have no intention of ever leaving that village. And I see that the 8A program is important there as well, because it creates an opportunity to pay a dividend. And while the dividends, when you compare it to someone's annual salary, it may not seem like a whole lot. But when you're living a subsistence lifestyle in a rural village, even a few hundred or a few $1,000s a year can make a big difference in their ability to maintain a quality of life out in these rural areas.
For every job that we're able to complete successfully inside of this structure, it benefits our people in many different ways. I'm an excellent example of how those benefits translate. Not only were the monetary benefits of participating in the program go to support the education foundation that allowed me and supported me financially through college, but has also opened up employment opportunities. I currently manage an 8A construction company for Arctic Slope Regional Corporation. And we have a number of different opportunities throughout the country and even jobs internationally. We've been able to marry up a particular opportunity with what we call the FPSP project. These jobs are very short in duration, so they're anywhere from a week to 3 weeks long. And they're always outgoing, they're throughout the world, there's a lot of travel involved, but it gives our craftsmen the opportunity to pick and choose when and where they go so that they can continue to participate and contribute in the subsistence economy. That's something that has not always been afforded given the economies of our communities being so small and not having that kind of freedom for employment.
Looking over the 30 years or 35 years since ANCSA passed, there's been a tremendous amount that the corporations have been able to do in making changes in Alaska Natives' lives. And those being, again, both social and economic changes where people have the ability to get jobs through Native corporations. The social side, if you look at the health, the improvement in health alone, today the health nonprofits that are out there are pretty much on their own, they stand alone, and they're doing very well, and they cover most of Alaska. Social programs in job placement, the housing programs that go on today, the housing authorities that have been put in place, most of those were formed by and through ANCSA corporations as nonprofits.
When you talk to Alaska Native people throughout the state of Alaska about their ANCSA corporations and 8A contracting, you will hear positive feedback about how life has improved throughout most of Alaska's rural communities. We have seen our unemployment rates decrease, our quality of life improve, and a huge increase in the numbers of young people pursuing a higher education. And even with all these positive things taking place, there are those who stand opposed to the unique status of Alaska Native corporations when it comes to government contracting. All of this fuss has brought national attention to ANCs and has begun an investigation that is looking into the legitimacy of Alaska Native corporations' involvement within the 8A program.
We welcome that investigation because I think it allows for a full open book look at this. What has troubled me is I believe there have been some very irresponsible allegations made about misuse of the 8A program by Alaska Native corporations, which is absolutely not true. We have worked very hard to establish very credible businesses delivering value service to the federal government through the 8A vehicle. Where 8A vehicle was established for very legitimate reasons, and Alaska Natives' ability to participate in that program is very much consistent with the intent of Congress when it established the 8A program. And so for me and for NANA, we welcome that investigation because we believe it'll expose the truth.
I think in regard to any investigation or review of the corporations, that I would say I would welcome any kind of review, in that I'm very proud of our corporation, both our shareholder base, our board of directors. I think we have an excellent board of directors that are working very hard and really care about the people.
I think that that the program works fine. I think that the ANC's involvement in the program and success is something new, so it's caught people's attention. They aren't well informed on the situation, and I think that that's our job, is to inform and continue to operate successfully and within the boundaries of the program.
This 8A program is a good thing. Of the different programs that the federal government has established to benefit the Native people, the indigenous people of the United States, this program is a success, and we need to support it and make it better.
Eventually, I'm hoping that not only will the criticisms go away, but in fact, the contractors and Congress will end up strongly supporting the program, because we, given the opportunity, we can perform as well as anybody else.
At the end of the day, in spite of criticism and controversy, America's Native Americans continue to plow industry and commerce, thanks to the benefits of 8A. We're regaining the ground the past years have stolen and catching up with corporate America. 8A, it's working. We're contenders and proud of it.